Thanks for staying. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, government is still struggling to raise the required revenue as against what it had projected in this year's budget. That's the conclusion one may draw after going through the latest fiscal numbers ending July. But could this affect ongoing government projects? There's more in this report.
To data covering government's fiscal operations for the first 7 months of this year, managers of the economy were hoping to raise 24 billion cedis in revenue, but got 21 billion cedis. This was about 3 billion cedis short of the revenue targeted, and it was mainly due to challenges with collection of domestic taxes, which was also 2 billion cedis short of the 22 billion cedis projected. Apart from VAT, most of the various tax types failed to meet their targets. It's however not clear for now what could be the reason for this challenge. Government had earlier indicated that revenue numbers are usually not good in the first half of the year, but expected things to pick up in the third and fourth quarters. For some analysts, if things do not improve, then it's likely government could end the year missing out on its revenue target of 45 billion cedis. However, as of July this year, government had gotten 21 billion cedis of revenue targeted. The development would obviously have an impact on projects hoping to draw funding from these taxes, as well as overall expenses. On the expenditure side, there was some good news as government had kept its spending within budget targets. It had an expenditure target of 30.5 billion cedis, but has actually spent 28 billion cedis, about 2.5 billion cedis short of the target.
Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has indicated it can only caution the public on dealings against dealings of gold buying firm Men's Gold rather than closing down the institution entirely. This follows recent announcement by the Commission that the company has not been licensed to operate in the capital market. The Bank of Ghana had earlier issued a similar warning against depositing money with the gold buying firm. Now, the two regulators have been criticized by sections of the public for not doing enough to protect depositors and the investing public. But the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbami Tete, says the decision can only be taken after processes of investigation.
Bank of Ghana had called, the regulators, because it's a regulators forum, and I think the issue had come up that, look, this thing, who is the regulator? Who is regulating them? So it was decided that, well, let all the regulators indicate their position in relation to this particular entity, whether they are a company that you regulate or not. So we basically had to issue the statement to let the investing public know that the company in question, Men's Gold, is not a licensed capital market operator, So, and that is as far as we can go, because and that's why earlier on I indicated that before you invest in a company that you think is operating in the capital market, please just do a check with SEC. I'm looking forward to sometime in the future where, it will be easy to maybe go online or to visit the portal, to ascertain these things. But for now, you can call our toll-free line. You can, call our main line just to find out whether a company or an entity purporting to be selling or managing capital market products is licensed by us. So we basically wanted to let the general public know that there should be no ambiguity. Men's Gold is not a capital market operator because they've not come to us and they're not operating with a license that we have issued, So that's just as much as we can say about the situation. Now the question is, what are they doing? Is what they are doing, does it have a semblance of capital market operations? So when you begin to delve into it, then you can have a debate that, well, it is or it is not. Okay, but the purpose of the circular was just to alert the market, the Ghanaian public, that Men's Gold is not a capital market operator by our, the list of licensed companies that are out there.
Now, stakeholders have generally hailed the paperless system at the country's port 1 month after its implementation. This is despite the initial inconsistencies, including network failures, among others. Unlike before, exporters and importers are now processing their documents largely through a computerized system. Although some of the challenges persist, government says all the issues shall be resolved by the end of the year to ensure a flawless operation. The Union of Traders Association, GUTA, for instance, believes but for a few lingering constraints, the process has so far been successful.
You never got up one day and then go to the tertiary institution or the School of Journalism. You started from class 1, graduated through the system before you became what you are now. And so it's a system that needs to be also graduated. And once it has been introduced, I mean, there will be a lot of challenges along the way. And so, but when the challenges comes, the best thing is to correct the challenges whilst we go along.
The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, to some extent, also shares GUTA's sentiments. It, however, says there is still room for improvement. IT solutions provider at the ports and operators of the system, GCNet, is also excited about the turnout of events so far. Executive Chairman Dr. Norte Omabu believes the process can only get better, saying it is early days yet.
I mean, we welcomed it wholeheartedly. You know, we were committed from day one. We knew it would work, but it required a champion. You know, because you're coordinating several agencies. You have the GPHA, you have the various shipping lines, you have, you know, the freight forwarders, you have the importers, you have customs. Working in that environment, you know, requires a community-wide effort. And this is what was successfully achieved under the direction of the Vice President.
Meanwhile, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has revealed, contrary to earlier concerns, government has not incurred any associated costs so far. Following the takeover of the other IT solutions provider at the ports, West Blue Consulting by the Dubai-based Customs World, efficiency at the ports is still to be even further enhanced. Now, government is planning to establish an e-commerce portal for handicraft materials and other exportable arts. This is part of measures to ensure Ghana derives the full benefit of the free continental Africa trade market area. Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Carlos Ahenkra disclosed this at the 77th National Exporters Forum organized by the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Ebenezer Sabute now joins us live with some updates. Now, Ebenezer, if you can hear me, tell me more about this portal and what are some of the items that would be advertised on that.
Okay, Emmanuel, as we did earlier said, it's going to be a portal for handicraft materials. And when I say handicraft materials, I mean the fugus, the baskets, and the various arts equipment or materials that have been done in this country by our exporters who normally do those works as their business. So it is actually to promote some of these things so that them or people who want to trade in such materials are able to go to the platform, get information, first-hand information on where to get them, how to get them, and then how to export them. It is actually going to be open. You can go there and easily access it.
Right now, Ebenezer, when is this thing coming into fruition? When do you expect? Any deadlines?
Yes, the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkra, did mention that the ministry has begun talks with some consultants to ensure that this project comes to fruition. So by next year, we are going to see the green light on this product.
Now, finally, before you go, do you have any other issues coming up at the Exporters Forum?
Okay, the Deputy Minister has also been explaining to exporters that before you can be able to export something that is
all right, so we sincerely apologize for that technical hitch there, but Ebenezer Sabute briefing us about the new portal which has been established by government to promote handicraft works by Ghanaians. Now, moving on, members of the Concent Drivers Association on Wednesday, October 4, stormed the premises of the multimedia group at Kokomemle to demand government reduces fuel prices. The drivers, who were clad in red armbands, singing and chanting slogans, said government has betrayed them since they voted for the Akufo-Addo-led administration because he promised to reduce fuel prices. They are giving government a 3-day ultimatum to do so, else they will picket at the Energy Ministry.
Our concern is about the fuel increase. Now the fuel increase is going too high. Each and every day when you wake up as a driver, or a taxi driver, or a tractor driver, or a sprinter driver, or Okada driver, the only thing you hear is the fuel has been what? Increased. As we are talking, the fuel, when then government was on power, the fuel was 14 cedi. Now how come this government is on power? Then he has already promised us that he is coming so that our work will be easy for us, for the fuel will come down. Why should we buy fuel more than 22 cedi? It's cheating. The government is cheating us. We are working and the profit is going to the government. When you look at the fuel price now, the taxes are close to 50%, 49%. Why should we be working and paying taxes close to 49%? So we are telling the government to reduce the fuel price for us as he promised. Because when it was 14 cedi, he promised us that he's going to reduce it. So if he's going to reduce it and he has not reduced it, then he should rather bring it to 14 for us. Because the fuel is really killing us. It's killing our business. Somewhere last week, we sent a letter to the Flagstaff House. And so last Friday, they called us and we went there. And you know what's surprising? They only decreased petrol 1.6% and rather increase diesel 1.5%. Is it not cheating?
The solution is to increase your fares.
So if look, the government is saying we should not what? Increase our fares, right? So we are telling the government if somewhere last week, even if it was on graphic, that Bache was telling us the government can do nothing about, they can do nothing to reduce the fuel price. So, and we are going to increase our fares. The leaders are saying we shouldn't what? Increase our fare. It's total cheating. We are giving him by Friday. We want to hear from him. Or else, we are going to the ministries to sleep there. Because they made a promise they are going to reduce the fuel price for us. And the fuel price is not affecting us alone, but rather affecting all Ghanaians.
Agitating members of the Concent Drivers Association were agitating for fuel prices to be reduced and had given government a 3-day ultimatum. Away and still in the energy sector, the Millennium Development Authority, MIDA, is hoping to settle on the new owner of ECG by the second quarter of next year. The authority has begun the final rounds of engagements with these potential investors to help complete the process as scheduled. Now, George Riafe was at the meeting and has joined me here in the studio with some more explanations. Now, George, tell me about some of the issues that came up.
So we understand that there are about 8 investors who have put themselves together. These are separate investors who are hoping to be settled on. So let's just say like a beauty contest, actually. And the judges are there looking at who is the most beautiful person to be crowned as a Mr. or Miss ECG to manage the company. And that's what they are doing so far. So this final round of engagement is basically to address all their questions. Like maybe during question time, Ms. Ghana, ask all the questions to these guys and see who is the best person. And then they go back and put together their proposals, the final one, and then they do that pitching and then forward it to MIDA and see. So they will go through all these documents and see who is the best person to be crowned as the new owner of ECG. And this meeting actually is part of the final round of engagement that they're going to do with these potential investors so that they will settle on that new owner, all other things being equal by next year, so that that owner can take over ECG.
Do you expect the whole process to be completed by the
there are still issues that needs to be addressed, of course, and that is why they are saying that they are racing against time to do all these processes so that by next year they can meet that September deadline of completing all these processes so that that new owner can be announced. And this person who is supposed to come in should be able to pump in a minimum of $500 million in addition to what MIDA is bringing in. And they are bringing in over $600 million. And we understand that so far, some $300 million already has been made available to MIDA Ghana that they can draw. But this person or this new entity or this investor or this new company that they will settle on should be prepared to invest about $500 million. That's the minimum into ECG over a 5-year period in trying to turn it around. And also, this investor should also present some credible tariff plan on how they also intend to recoup their investment. So if your tariff levels are quite high, it looks like there might be challenges in these judges settling on you as being the most handsome person to be crowned as the winner to take over ECG.
Now, I know there are some legalities here because the government has
taken the issue to court.
Exactly. Could MIDA be cited for contempt?
Well, interestingly, they admit that they received that writ. But the argument is that they think that a judge has to rule on this issue. So if there hasn't been any determination on this issue in court, then they believe that they can still go ahead with the whole process. So they believe that unless that judge sits on this case in court, they are going ahead with the process, because the fear is that any delays in this whole engagement could affect efforts to draw down the second tranche of funds for this whole process. And they should finish everything before September 2018. And for them, they are going ahead. Tomorrow, they will have that final round because they started this engagement since Tuesday. And they will close the chapter on these Q&A questions Friday, and then they move to the next phase of receiving the bids from these companies and then hoping that they could settle on this new owner maybe end of Q1 or even end of Q2.
All right, so finally, before you go, would you stick your neck out for that beauty queen that we expect? Would you
that Mr. ECG?
Exactly.
They themselves admit that there are lots of hurdles they need to overcome. And as the economist will always say, that all other things being equal, if all these variables are constant and they go according to their plan, a plane is saying that I'm flying from Kumasi to Accra. Now, if the wind levels are this, if this are this, you get to Accra in 30 minutes. So if all those variables are constant, then indeed they are hoping they'll settle on this new owner before September 2018.
You cannot actually tell us who it could be.
It will be difficult. Okay. If you do it. All
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yafi.
George Yafi, bringing us up to speed with engagements by MIDA with some potential investors to take over the administration of the ECG. Now, moving on, government has been advised to make water transport a major alternative means of transportation in the country, particularly for agriculture. This is according to stakeholders at the Agribusiness Forum, who will give greater access to various parts of the country at a cheaper cost. Joy Business's Sheila Tamaklo was at the GIPC USAID FinCap Agribusiness Forum and now reports.
The Agribusiness Forum pulled players in the agri sector to discuss policy initiatives to improve as well as attract investments into the sector. Among the numerous suggestions was for government to explore water transport, especially to farmlands along the banks of the country's waters. Speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, SADA, believes this would improve accessibility, especially to the northern parts of Ghana.
Where the lands are also the places which are difficult to reach. They are either marshy or that there are no feeder roads going into these large farmlands. But they may have waterways, that the rivers may still be flowing. But somehow we have neglected an investment in the rivers as sources of transport, not just places to catch fish and pump water into the land, but a means to travel from one place to the other. Fortunately, a good part of northern Ghana, starting from northern Brong-Ahafo and northern Volta going up, are properly supplied by rivers and streams. So we have to factor river transport, water transport into our transport mix, because most of our farmers cannot be accessed by road.
Maritime Advisor for West Africa, Martin Exley-Howes, could not agree more.
In this particular country, we have a wonderful water network that goes from the north to the south and a little bit of east to west. We've got to provide the east-west with roads, but let's use the waterways. We don't have to build them. They are already there, and they're provided by Mother Nature coming out of 5 other countries to run across this country. Everywhere in the world, they are now spending large amounts of money, even Nigeria, on developing the infrastructure along waterways because they found that it is far, far cheaper. One day we'll run out of oil, but we will still have rivers on which we can use a minimal amount of oil. To move a ton of cargo by water, it takes 144th, nearly 150th, amount of energy as you would do to move it by road. It's a huge saving of energy, whichever way the energy is coming from, electricity or diesel.
Sheila Tamaklo reporting for Joy Business.
All right, so it's a Wednesday, and of course, the Joy Business Van tells the story today of Smock Designs by Aisha Awudu Ali. Let's have an excerpt of what to come.
Aisha Awudu Ali grew up in Bolgatanga in the Upper East region where smocks are very common. The traditional attire made from handloom strips is very popular in the 3 northern regions of Ghana, worn during special occasions. Charliewood began for Aisha in 2015 after national service in Accra.
I was thinking of whether to go back to school or what was I going to do after national service. So I started selling the traditional smocks. I did my service at Rosen Highway. So some of the directors could ask me, Aisha, when you go to the north, I want you to get me a smock. So I was like, okay, then I think that's a business to start. So I started bringing the smocks. I go to Bolga and make them, the traditional ones. And then I bring and sell it to some of the directors and then some of the people at the ministry.
If you've worn a smock before, then you'd have realized it is quite heavy, and some people Aisha sold to would complain. That sparked the creativity in her.
All right, so you catch the full story tonight on Business Live at 5 p.m. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. My name is Emmanuel Apuaji. Have a good afternoon.